Next on Images, Imágenes, the Plebiscite to determine the political future of Puerto Rico. Saludos. Welcome to Images, Imágenes. I'm Miguel Perez. For the centuries since the Spanish-American War, Puerto Rico has been a colony of the United States. And for the half-century since the negotiations that created the island's current Commonwealth relationship with this country, Puerto Ricans here and there have been debating the benefits and the drawbacks of three possible options: remaining a Commonwealth, becoming a State of the Union, or an independent nation. On November 14, in a plebiscite on the island, Puerto Ricans will have an opportunity to have a say on their own destiny. But which option is best for Puerto Rico? And who should be able to make that determination? Should New Jersey Puerto Ricans get that opportunity as they did in New York last month? And will Congress abide by the will of the Puerto Rican people? Those are just some of the questions we'll be asking a panel of Puerto Ricans representing the three options and a fourth guest, speaking for those who believe that mainland Puerto Ricans should have a right to vote from here. Lidia Valencia, who favors statehood for Puerto Rico. Pablo Rivera, who prefers the current Commonwealth system. Jorge Colón, who believes independence is the answer. And Jose Rivera, who feels that Puerto Ricans in the United States should be allowed to vote from here. Welcome everyone to the show. Very happy to have you here. Let's start with you, Mr. Rivera. We have two Riveras on the program. Pablo Rivera. Wow. We did an informal survey here on this program. We went to a Puerto Rican parade and we asked 25 people. We did a survey of 25 people. 23 of them said that they preferred the Commonwealth relationship. Let's start with you. Let's ask the three representatives of the three formulas to tell us why their formula is the best. Why Commonwealth?
Simple. It's the first point that we have to establish here is that in order for you to defend anything, you have to be alive, you have to survive. The Commonwealth status has been a measure of survival for the Puerto Rican people. We had no choices in the past except becoming subservient first to Spain and then to the United States. Secondly, personally, I applaud the fact that the entire Puerto Rican diaspora is engaging itself in conversations and discussions in family meetings and everywhere. They are talking about this. I applaud that there are three different positions, and there is also a fourth position, the abstention. Because if nothing else, we are bringing to the front the problem that we have, which is a very complicated problem. My logic tells me that a complicated problem necessitates a similarly complicated solution. I do not pretend to tell you here that Commonwealth is the perfect solution to the terrible problem that we have. But at least it enables us to continue to struggle in the search for the, shall we say, final solution, even though that's a dangerous term because
there are others who believe that the final solution is at hand, those who believe in statehood. Lidia Valencia, why don't you tell us why statehood is the best formula?
Well, I totally agree with the aspect that we are a colony of the United States and have been treated as such. And we've been held in limbo. I think the Commonwealth status served its purpose, in which it should have served as a transitional period in which we would then be identified as a state. I think everyone knows that politics is the name of the game. And statehood would afford the island of Puerto Rico 7 representatives in Congress and 2 senators in Senate, which would have some weight in some of the decision-making process. Most of the livelihood of Puerto Rico is reliant on Section 936 as a Commonwealth status. We've seen what has happened with Section 936, no matter what administration has been in power in the United States. And I think we're in grave jeopardy I think it's time we resolve the issues that have angered and pained us. We all know that the military we serve disproportionately, and we're treated as second-class citizens. I think we need to resolve those issues, and the only way to resolve the issue is to be recognized as a state.
Jorge Colon, why independence?
Well, Miguel, you said something very important in your introduction, and it's Puerto Rico will have a chance to decide over their destiny. But how good it is to decide over your destiny if you will not rule over it? Okay, the formula of independence, and also Pablo mentioned that he said that he doesn't want to say that Commonwealth is the perfect solution. Well, I will say that independence is the perfect solution for Puerto Rico. Under independence, Puerto Rico, that's the right of the people of Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico will be a sovereign nation. It will rule over their land, their destiny. It'll become a productive nation, okay? And we want to move away from the formulas of dependence, which represent the Commonwealth and the statehood, because these two formulas, the only thing they're offering right now is we are going to have X amount of money every year. Independence says, no, we are going to have production. We are going to produce what we consume. We will begin trade agreements with different nations, and we will be self-sufficient. We will be a nation, and we will produce and sustain ourselves. And we will be independent. We will rule over our lands, and the people will be proud, and the people will see the difference that independence is going to bring to Puerto Rico.
Jose Rivera, as we discussed the three options, many Puerto Ricans in the United States who feel they should have the right to determine the future of their island are not getting that opportunity. You are the organizer of a movement created in the city of New York to give the Puerto Rican community there that opportunity by holding your own separate plebiscite, simply because the leadership in Puerto Rico would not allow Puerto Ricans to vote by absentee ballot from here. What was the logic behind that? Why do you think it's important for Puerto Ricans here to vote in this plebiscite too?
Well, Miguel, first of all, I want to express my gratitude to you once again for being part of this forum and with a very important message. In order for me to answer that question, we have to go back a little bit, back into 1989, when we first heard plebiscite mentioned. It was mentioned during the inaugural speech of then Governor Rafael Hernández Colón in Puerto Rico. Not too soon after, I think February 9th of the same year, 89, President George Bush, in his national speech, said that the Puerto Rican people should be given the opportunity through an election to finally decide their political status. Well, both of them said the Puerto Rican people. The facts are that since the American troops landed in Puerto Rico back in 1898, this will really be the only opportunity that I have heard or read about that Puerto Ricans are going to be given to be involved in a process of freely determine their political status. If that is to be the case, it can only happen by recognizing that 45% of the Puerto Rican nation resides at the moment outside of the island of Puerto Rico. There are 3.7 million Puerto Ricans still residing in Puerto Rico, but there is over 2.5 million Puerto Ricans residing outside of Puerto Rico.
And you don't stop being Puerto Rican because
we
you got
do
on
not
a plane and flew for 3 hours to the United States.
We are better.
No way. We're still Puerto Ricans, and everything we do, we express ourselves and we conduct ourselves in this country as a Puerto Rican people. And as such, we took it upon themselves to lobby both the government, the leaders in Puerto Rico, and in Congress during that first process. To make a story short, we felt that it was an embarrassment the way Congress during that process treated the Puerto Rican leadership from Puerto Rico, because there were numbers of public hearings. But we, at the same time, we were able to demonstrate our political clout. The elected leadership from New York and Puerto Rican leaders, because we forced Congress to organize public hearings on the issue of a plebiscite for Puerto Rico in El Barrio de Nueva York. And it was very well attended. And we made it clear that if Congress were to act in a responsible manner and they were to organize a plebiscite, that they have to involve all the Puerto Ricans. It cannot be any other way. And you will hear, or you probably have heard a lot of arguments that why should we be allowed to get involved in an election that's taking place in Puerto Rico? Well, this is not just any election. We're not interested in electing the governor of Puerto Rico or a mayor of San Juan or Bayamón. This is a plebiscite. It's a different election. It's to determine finally the political status of a country, in this case, Puerto Rico, mi Puerto Rico. So therefore, I'm not going to allow anyone to decide that I should not be part of it or for me without me putting up a fight. And we have done so. And we have been successful.
There is a movement around the other parts of the country to do the same thing that you did in New York, and I'm wondering, Lydia Valencia, whether you favor to do the same thing here in the state of New Jersey. Should Puerto Ricans here hold some kind of referendum?
Well, I think it's an important aspect. I don't believe that a decision such as this should go unattended, so to speak. The difficulty that New Jersey confronts is the way the Board of Elections are structured and how you would go ahead and try to undertake this major undertaking. We're attempting to do something in that respect. At best, I think a survey could be had, a much more structured survey where we could probably use our Hispanic community-based organizations throughout the state, which we have one almost in every county, and try to get them to cooperate with us and try to hold at least a survey so we have a feel of how the people feel. I think given what has happened in New York, in which there was a very heavily way of registering to vote and engendering that
help to empower the Puerto Rican community locally.
Exactly. It's very important. It's also very important that politicians know that Puerto Ricans can vote, and they will do so at any given time. When has been the key question. And I think that this is a good way to introduce them to the political process.
Let me go back to the three formulas for a few minutes. And Mr. Rivera, Pablo Rivera, one of the things that Ms. Valencia mentioned was that we will gain all these additional Congress members,
You believe
two
that?
senators, if Puerto Rico becomes a state. My question is, wouldn't you also be losing other things like an Olympic team, for example?
No. It isn't what you lose. Let's talk about what you gain. 7 members of Congress. That means that Puerto Rico will have the equivalent of congressional representation of maybe more than 25 states in the Union. Now, I ask you in all candor, if you were one of those 25 states, would you vote in favor of Puerto Rico being an equal to your state?
Well, that's another question that we also have to debate, and that is the question of whether Congress will abide by the will of the Puerto Rican people if they say they want statehood.
The record indicates that there is no such thing right now. There's no commitment on the part of the Congress.
But I think we need to force the issue. We need to confront Congress, and we need to confront the United States and say it's time to resolve. And until that day happens, we're never really going to be certain as to which way they're going to go. And then maybe that will gender that political empowerment in our people to come out and really exercise their vote and take the bull by its horns.
Mr. Colon,
I want to about the
independentistas,
plebiscite.
how do you feel about that?
They support the voto ausente, which is the vote of the all absentee ballot, all Puerto Ricans in the continent. And whatever they are, not only in the United States, there will be, this is not a plebiscite. People are calling this a plebiscite. This is a formal consultation, okay? In order for this to be a real plebiscite, according to international law, everybody had to participate. Okay, we couldn't be limited to only the people in the island. There will be other rules applied. What happened in New York a few weeks ago, it had to be ruled by the Commission of Election from Puerto Rico directly, not an isolated thing happening here in the United States. You know, it would have to be a combined effort from Puerto Rico and here. The Independentistas always have being 100% behind the Puerto Ricans here in the States, and they want Puerto Ricans to express their decision to be able to vote in a plebiscite when and if happens, and it will happen.
Jose Rivera, talk about taking that decision to Congress. Won't the plebiscites held on the mainland have perhaps an even greater effect on Congress because the Puerto Ricans here, like in New York City, already have representation in Washington, whereas the Puerto Ricans on the island do not have that representation? You can go to a Senator Monahan in New York and say, please lobby for what the will of the Puerto Rican people who are your constituents.
Well, we speak about that there's going to be an election in Puerto Rico November 14, which is not binding. Congress is totally ignoring. But what I was saying at the beginning, Congress ignored the process in 89 to 91. They were supposed to have organized an election. They chose to not do anything. They acted in a very bad and irresponsible manner. That goes to show you what do they think about how they feel or think about Puerto Rico and the Puerto Ricans. However, we had a feeling that this was going to come back again. So we try our best to convince the leadership of the three different parties in Puerto Rico that once this comes back out again, that they should seriously talk about including us, the Puerto Ricans outside the mainland, because it will be the only way that by doing so, we can pressure from the mainland Congress into respecting the will of the Puerto Rican people. Sadly, they chose not to do that. They introduced legislation and excluding us. So we felt that we had to act, and we did that. Over 23 Puerto Rican elected officials in the state of New York came together, and we said, you know what, we're moving ahead with our own election. And we don't need anyone's permission to do so. We're going to show that we mean business. And we did that. And we know that we can influence the local elected Congress members in the city of New York and in the state of New York. Now, hopefully, New Jersey will do something similar. Now, it's in the planning stages that Chicago will be doing something in the near future. And I'm going to be participating in that effort. And hopefully the other states that are viewing your program will understand the need for us to get involved to pressure Congress. Only all of us from the states can do that.
I just want to say for the record that the legislation was not introduced to leave out, to exclude. There was an effort from Senator Rubén Berríos Martínez, which is the president of the Puerto Rican Independence Party.
And Marcos Rigao.
And Marcos Rigao. I want to clarify that. I'm going to make that clarification. And Marcos Rigao. Both of them, they tried to present legislation, and it was voted down. The legislation wanted to include Puerto Ricans outside of the mainland.
They did that, and it was voted down, and they knew that they didn't have much of an influence because the present party controls both houses of the legislature.
That's correct, Council.
While the intent was good, it would have been also a good idea if they would have mobilized the Puerto Rican people in Puerto Rico in a massive campaign to pressure the legislature and to pressure the governor. That did not take place.
Mr. Pablo Rivera, again, I want to harper on the point that you said that, let's talk about what will be gained or what will be lost. But I want to talk about what will be lost. And what will be lost would be,
the sad fact.
Miss Universe is Puerto Rican right now.
Forget about Miss Universe, forget about
international
the Olympics.
competitions.
This Olympics is entertainment.
You're not concerned about that, because I've talked to many other populares like yourself who are very concerned about losing an Olympic team if Puerto Rico becomes a state.
We should be concerned about the economic future of Puerto Rico. We should be concerned about the legitimate right that Puerto Ricans have as American citizens to force this kind of a dialogue. We should be concerned that I would like to see 1 million letters written to received by the White House. Every Puerto Rican should spend 29 cents and write to the president, do this. Every Puerto Rican should write to their congressional representatives. I want you to do this.
Do what? Do
whatever they want.
The will of
exercise their American right and express themselves. We have never seen that kind of an expression on the Puerto Rican community. We have only allowed our leadership to do that, and that's sad. because the sad fact is that Puerto Ricans are a minority in the universe of the United States. We are 5 million in the universe, vis-a-vis 252 million in the United States. We are 2 million in New York, vis-a-vis 14 million in the state of New York. We are 750,000 in New Jersey, vis-a-vis 7 million in the state of New Jersey, and so on. Somos la última renca del barril, each way you see it. Whichever way you see it, we are a minority.
The bottom of the barrel is what you
Sociologically, economically, politically, and each way you see it. The only way I see being a minority, and I applaud and I respect and I defend that, is that we are a virtuous minority. Puerto Rico is the only nation in the planet that has in the coat of arms the symbology of our Lord Jesus Christ. And I am one who will die to defend that symbology.
Mr. Colon, you wanted to mention something about the importance of the Olympic team?
Well, just the fact that the Popular Democratic Party, it's been using this, and to go back and forth with the Statehood Party, which is the New Progressive Party, and that doesn't really, they won't bring this argument to us because they know they can't win that one. But I wanted to talk about Section 936 that Lydia mentioned earlier. Okay, this is as good as gone, and they're still using it. Okay, Section 936 is as good as gone.
We should explain that Section 936 gives tax breaks to corporations, American corporations
that established in Puerto Rico. It's Section 936 of the United States Internal Revenue Code.
That's correct.
Okay, as a sovereign nation, as an independent nation, Puerto Rico. Well, if it becomes a state, let's start right there. If it becomes a state, this is gone. Okay, that doesn't exist anymore. It's going to be all the laws that apply to the states of the Union here in the United States are going to apply. So there's not going to be any incentives.
And with NAFTA nowadays going on, many of these investments in Puerto Rico might move to Mexico. Is that a concern?
Well, the concern...
Happen even with Section 936.
Exactly, without it. But we just want to concentrate on producing, okay? Once Puerto Rico becomes a free nation, a republic, okay, first of all, the shipping cost, that's going to drop, okay? We're going to sell to people who pay what we want them to pay, okay? Not ask them how much they want to pay, like the way we're trading right now with the United States. Our trading agreement is exclusive with the United States. They dictate what they're going to pay and how this is going to be done. Once we're out of, once we don't want to completely separate. We're going to have a treaty of friendship and cooperation with the United States, which will include economic agreements. Okay, but we want to be able to do that with other nations, Germany, Japan. We want to have those kind of trades. Okay, we want to concentrate in the international market and not limit ourselves to deal with the United States. And that's what the independence is going to bring. Production and free trade with the world.
Statehood, what will it bring?
It will bring the equal opportunities that the United States has. It will bring, a lot of people fear federal income tax. But if you really look at the rate by which your income tax is considered, it's much lower than Puerto Rican income tax is considered. So you would have a vast majority of people that would not be paying the income tax that people are so afraid of on the island. You would have 60% of the persons that are there, that are working, that would be eligible for the earned income credit. It would mean $3,000 million influx, though you would lose Section 936, which we all understand, I think, at this table, is almost lost. I mean, it's hanging by a hair, and pretty soon that hair is going to be cut. The economics of the United States is not going to sustain Section 936 much longer. So we need to look at other variables. To produce is fine. We need to produce. We need to make that island economically viable. But how are we going to do that without Section 936 or anything else in place? Statehood is going to guarantee us all of those things that we need in place.
I want to clarify. I just want to clarify that when Section 936, that's an equivalent to Section 936, which is called Section 901. And this Section 936 applies only to possessions and territories of the United States. Section 901 applies to independent nations, okay, to republics, and that's the same. They're relatively the same. but it has differences because
So
we're not-
901 could be used.
it could be
Puerto Rico
replaced. We could even,
replace
it could even,
936.
exactly. It could have been used to replace this. Also, as a part of the treaty we're going into, the Treaty of Friendship and Cooperation I mentioned earlier, okay, the United States will compromise with Puerto Rico to give the same amounts of money we're getting right now for a period of 10 years, okay, in a lump sum. And it's not going to be used the way it's being used now to give away for programs and different things. It's going to be used to invest into production.
I'm running out of time. Jose Rivera, are you optimistic about, they say that after November 14th, they may still have to have a second plebiscite. Once the Puerto Rican people decide, it will be taken to Congress. Congress will come up with a plan. The Puerto Rican people will have to vote again. Are you optimistic that what you did in New York will put pressure on the politicians
Miguel
in Puerto
Perez,
Rico?
over 32,000 Puerto Ricans in the city of New York not only voted, but they signed a card in support of our effort and with a message to the Congress of the United States to organize a legitimate plebiscite where all Puerto Ricans should be allowed to participate. Why should we be doing this? Because Puerto Rico is our South Africa. Puerto Rico is our state of Israel. There are changes taking place in the world, with the exception of two areas, Northern Ireland and Puerto Rico. They're both a colony. That has to change, only with our participation.
Thank you all for being here. We'll have to discuss this further on. In fact, we are going to discuss it soon after November 14th. Today, we've learned about those three options and about who should have the right to vote in the future of Puerto Rico. On another program, shortly after the plebiscite on the island, we will discuss how to make Congress abide by the will of the Puerto Rican people. In the meantime, we'd like to know what you think about this issue. Please write us at Imágenes, New Jersey Network, 50 Park Place, Newark, New Jersey, 07102. And we'll read some of your letters on that next program on Del Plebiscito de Puerto Rico. Imágenes, New Jersey Network, 50 Park Place, Newark, New Jersey, 07102. I'm Miguel Perez, and I hope to see you soon on another edition of Imágenes. Hasta pronto.